Hello, all you hardcores out there. How are you doing? It's Rusty from Porky's Corner, the biggest gob in the sport. Ask Porky Part 2. Questions that people keep sending in. Some of them are really personal and vile. I mean, vile. But they keep sending in the same old nonsense. So I'm going to explain it one last time. People keep digging out the one of me getting my teeth smashed down my throat in the back of that police car. Yeah, well, if that person hadn't have filmed that, I'd have been knackered in court, wouldn't I? Because there was a camera in the police car filming me getting bashed up. But that weren't working when we got on trial. No, they didn't have all that. So I'm glad that gentleman who filmed it, me getting my head caved in and teeth down my throat. But it is what it is, isn't it? If you want to be Jack the Lad years ago and drink drive and take police chasers, that's what happens. You know, eventually, you know, they come and get you, and then they try and go too far, don't they? So drinking and driving's no good. Drugs are for mugs, and boozers are definitely not for cruisers. All right, boozing is not for cruising. Get a taxi. Learn from my mistakes. Otherwise, not only do they give you a good hiding, they stitch you up as well. So, okie dokie. So that's that put to bed. All right. People keep sending me stuff like that, thinking that it's going to bother me. Of course, it's not going to bother me. But it's 10 years ago or 9 years ago. So, right. Big Malk, aka Spencer Fearon. Why do you call him Big Malk, Porky? Well, every time I see anything that Big Malk says on social media or anything else, it's always got a certain element to it. And we're not going to mention the word, are we? Because we can't really, can we, nowadays, without anybody making a big issue out of things. But we know what Big Mouth makes it, don't we? Whenever he's explaining anything to us, there's always some sort of tone, isn't there, to it? You know, like Big Mouth, who do you think wins? Terence Crawford, right? A welterweight boxer. Who does he win, right? Against Canelo, who's who beat Kovalev at light heavyweight. So if they fight at super middleweight, who wins now? If it were anybody else in the world except Terence Crawford, if it were anybody else, he'd be coming out with something totally different, wouldn't you, Big Malk? But he just can't, can you? He just can't do it, can you? Well, let me just say this to you, Big Malk, right? Look at the carrying off that we had with Kell Brook against Golovkin. That were a welterweight, jumping by light middle and jumping into middle. And look at all the carrying off we had with that. Now we've got a welterweight jumping in with a guy that not only has world titles at middle, he's got world titles at super middle and light heavyweight. Right? Now, this is a man that got in the ring at 197 against Kovalev. So, and he's on about fighting Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, who gets in ring at what? 153? 154? So, we have weight divisions for a reason. Fighters are not superheroes. So, no, I don't think Terence Crawford beats Canelo. I think he gets run over. You can only have so many skills. Skills can only pay the bills that much. Floyd Mayweather wouldn't fight Felix Sturm, would he? When the offer were there, because it's just too much. There's just too much. So if it's too much for Floyd to fight Sturm, you know, he were never going to get in there with somebody like an Andre Ward, were he? Well, could you imagine Floyd Mayweather fighting Andre Ward? Would that happen? Andre Ward, champion at super middle and light heavy. Would Floyd have fought Andre Ward? No, he wouldn't have done. So why should Terence Crawford fight Canelo? We have weight divisions for a reason. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again. fighters are not superheroes. They're not. So, okay, Tony Bellew's stance on drug cheats is okay. So why do you slate him? Tony Bellew's, let me just read that question again out to you. Your plant pot who sent that in. Why do I stick it? Why do I slate Tony Bellew when he comes out with that on drug cheats? Well, Tony's stance on drug cheats is great. I believe it. They should be banned for life. But what happens when it's a matchroom fighter? Yeah, well, Tony comes out, well, yeah, but I know him and he won't do it. That's because Tony's probably too loyal for his own good, isn't he, really? Do you know what I mean? So, if it were Liam Smith who failed the test or David Price, right, Tony won't feel the same. And he doesn't feel the same when it's anybody who's connected to Matchroom. We didn't feel, the silence on the Dylan White one is unbelievable. The silence on the Conor Benn one, and the actual rimming and licking on that one is off the chart. So that's why I stick it to Tony Bellew. You can't just come out with bold statements like that about drug cheats and stone them in streets and ban them for life. But then when it's a pal of yours, yeah, well, it's, I know it's only an adverse finding. Adverse makes it sound like it's some minute finding, like a bit of air that somebody's inhaled in a room that they shouldn't have done it. It makes it sound like it's minute and 150,000 times smaller than a grain of sugar or a grain of sand when they say the word adverse. What it means is you've tested positive for a banned substance. That's what adverse means. It's just a dressed up word. That's all it is. So, Tony Bellew, yeah, I do slate you for your opinion on drug cheats because, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, if it's Jarrell Miller or anybody from Queensbury, you're all over it like a rash. But if it's Matchroom, oh, it's okay, I know him. That's why I stick it to you, Tony Bellew. All right, so the gentleman who sent that question in, I see your point, but there's your answer. Porky, would you fight Big John Fury, the big fighting man from Manchester? No, he'd be way too big for me, Big John Fury. Big 6'3" bloke, 20 clem plus, against a 5'8" bloke, 11 clem. It's not even a fair fight, is it? But if he stuck it on me, I'd have to defend myself, wouldn't I? Pop, pop, bang. But he don't fight. He's not a fighting man, is he? He just talks about fighting. He don't fight anybody. He's been out of jail nearly 100 months and he hasn't thrown one punch at anybody. Only Asif Bally, and I think that was a slap. So, okie dokie. Who's best UK trainer, Porky, at the moment? Well, whoever I say, people are going to go, you're biased, you know him. So, I'm going to say any UK trainer that's putting effort in just needs a bit of luck, doesn't he, really? If you've got your trainer's license, that's all. Some of them ain't got a clue how to train people. Look at Richard Poxon. Has not got a clue. Can't even set a game plan out. But he managed to get wins with He managed to get wins with Clinton Woods, didn't he? To everybody's amazement. But really, Clinton wrote it, finished the article. It was just a case of him being motivated and that. So people can blag it. Richard Poxon blagged it. He doesn't know a thing about training whatsoever. And then you look at somebody like Glyn Rhodes, who's been training 30-odd year, and only belts he's got on mantelpiece are a couple of Commonwealths and a British that Dennis bought him. That's it. So some people can put the yards in and have no luck whatsoever, but still end up rich men like Glyn Rhodes. And then other people like Poxon can fluke it, can't they? With Clinton Woods. And then there's people that put the hard yards in all the time and hardly have many champions like Chris Smedley. He's a great trainer, but he's not going to kiss arse, is he? Mick Whale and Josh Whale, they're not going to kiss arse, are they? And Peter Fury, so they're going to have limited champions, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Because they're not from that cloth, are they? Other people, and I'll name them here. Coldwell, he's always in thick of it. Tony Sims, because they play the game, don't they? They like to be in bed with certain promoters and not work with other promoters. That's what happens. Do you know what I mean? So this is why I think a lot of them should be neutral. Now, I covered it in that video with Rico. That you look at Steffi Bull's situation. He's having to work with Bricktop a lot now, isn't he? And that will be killing him inside, killing him. Because he'll be paranoid about having to work with Eddie as well, but he's not working with him as much. And look, if everybody's neutral, can all get on. But when you start aligning yourself to certain camps, when that work dries up, you got to cross the street, ain't you? Yeah, it's a bit uncomfortable for a few people when they're having to cross the street, isn't it? It's all a bit Frosty the Snowman, isn't it? Especially if you've been telling tales about other people, innit? So keep your mouth shut and keep off your WhatsApps. That's what I say. Pop, pop, bang on that one. Eddie going on about AJ against Fury, AJ against Wilder. But no one's listening anymore, Porky. But do you think it happens? No, I don't think they happen. I don't even know if the money's there anymore. I mean, we always keep hearing it's going to be next year, next year, next year. This Saudi money, it's all coming and all this. Well, is it? It's happening in football because we can see it on a daily basis. The bids and people leaving Premier League and speculation and that. It's happening in racehorses because my business partner with Porky's Corner, one of his horses has been flown out there, all expenses paid to go in a certain race in Saudi, and they're of at moon. So because it's not costing out to get it out there, and obviously if it wins, its value goes up, doesn't it? Because they're studying them, aren't they? When they get a few wins now, these here, that's where money is. So it's happening in football, it's happening in horse racing. We know it's happening in golf. Why is it stalling in boxing? Well, they're saying it's happening in boxing, aren't they? We've had 2 Joshua fights out there, haven't we? So they're saying it's happening in boxing. But what boxing fights are we getting out there? Warren's putting on Fury in like an exhibition thing. So that's not really boxing, is it? But is the money there for it to be in boxing? Yeah, the money's there, but they can't get the fights over the line, can they? Do you know what I mean? They've got Usyk signed. He's just fought Duvar, but that weren't in Saudi, were it? So I think when Usyk fights in Saudi, it'll be a big fella, but they've got to start putting fights on because if Fury takes his bat and ball home, the division's parked up. They can't do nothing without Tyson Fury. And if the WBC are not going to be strong enough to strip him, he's never going to walk from that belt. He's never going to hand that belt and he's going to want to load it up with that belt and be known as the champ who part the division up. And everybody should kneel before him. So maybe it might be time for everybody to start moving on with boxing and just disassociate themselves from the WBC altogether. If all promoters don't work with them, they're going to be knackered, aren't they? That's how I look at it. So, okie dokie. So, peace out. Keep on trucking. Keep supporting boxing. Don't have nightmares. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. Okie dokie. Peace out.